Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is my second session of today and our fourth presentation for today's virtual showcase. I hope some of you or all of you have been able to make it to some of the other sessions from some of the other presenters today as well, and I'm sure that you will see, if you have, that there's a recurring theme as we go through the presentation on new trends in the market, new verticals and new technologies that we're applying to our products. This afternoon's session is going to be focused on wireless locking and our next generation of wireless locking products, including the introduction of mobile identities as a way of managing individuals and credentials in an access system, and the role that the API economy is playing on the development of our overall portfolio. As with all of our online content, and today in particular, we are using a new tool. As I said in this morning's session, very much the acceleration of digitalization through the last year and the way that we've all had to learn to work is impacting us in the way we're working. It's also impacting our products, and it's impacting the demand on more digital solutions. And you'll find that that's an important trend as we look at our next generation of wireless access control products. The content will be recorded. It will be available on the stand later on. So if you do have colleagues that would be interested, or indeed customers that you would like to bring to the stand is available 24 hours a day. So one of the benefits of the digital platform. And of course, you can register your customers or your colleagues to come and view this at a later date. Other thing that's important before we get into the content is the chat functionality. We have introduced this time round onto our showcase to enable you to participate in the presentations, ask questions, and there is a team of Abloy exhibition stand manners, I guess, sat waiting for your questions in that chat room. So do please use that functionality if you do have a question. I can't unfortunately take any questions during the presentation, but if you do have a question, send it in and my colleagues will either pass it over to me for the end of the slideshow, or they'll be able to deal with it as we go through the slides. If you're watching the presentation on YouTube, or you're watching the presentation in full screen mode, you'd need to come out of that and use the live chat button on the virtual exhibition stand. Hopefully that's nice and straightforward for you. So today's topic is the next generation of wireless locking. My name is Pip Corku, and I look after product, the technical team and the digital transformation team at Abloy UK. And before we get into the next generation of wireless locking, I thought it would be a good place to start to just have a bit of a recap as to why we've moved to wireless locking, and why wireless locking has started to become, or certainly has already become, such an important part of an access control portfolio. And it stems back to some of the reasons we've developed some of our other products as well. If you were in the digital transformation CPD presentation this morning, or the innovative solutions for medicine management, or indeed the access control walkthrough of a building that we've had today, you would see that flexibility and system design are very, very important in terms of an access control system. So if we look at probably the earliest form of access control, a mechanical master key system, something that many of us, I guess, cut our teeth on, and from an Abloy perspective is very much the foundation upon which our business is built. There are some challenges with traditional key systems. Despite how good our master keying departments are, they can't predict the future. System design is very static, and that creates a lack of flexibility around the changing needs of the end user. No business stays the same for very long these days, and particularly in the current climate where we've all had to adjust to completely new ways of working, potentially new flows around a building or an area in terms of controlling the movement of people. All of these things are very difficult to achieve with a fixed design, a static design that we would get from a mechanical master key system. We also have a lack of control. One of the major drivers for moving to access and electronic credentials is the ability to turn off a lost or stolen credential, adapt when a security issue impacts the business. And we don't have that level of control in a mechanical system. As much as we can master key around the what we suggest is going to be the requirements of the building, or maybe we've got different teams of people that have different levels of access according to the cut on their physical key, it's still that lack of flexibility and ultimately that issue when a key goes missing. What do you do? Do you accept the risk in the organisation? Do you invest in that new key system and replace all of the locks? And then finally, traceability and data is a huge part of the decade that we've just gone into, and being able to see what's going on in a building or an area is not so much about security, although clearly it has some advantages in terms of auditing who might have had access to a particular asset or who might have had access to a particular room, but it also can be about building sustainably in terms of making sure that we're only utilising power and lighting and space in areas in the most efficient way as we possibly can. And so by understanding who's gone into a particular area, we can understand, okay, do I need to turn the lights on? What temperature do I need that area at? But that data has potential way beyond just the user, just the individual or the business that has purchased that system. And as we look at some of the trends that are affecting our access control marketplace later on in this presentation, we'll see just how important that data is going to become in terms of creating a true value for the customer as well. So there's been this growth, this shift towards access control, and undeniably that shift has been down to really these three core problems: lack of flexibility, lack of security when something goes wrong, something goes missing, and lack of visibility. Obviously, we can fix that. We can fix that with traditional wired access systems, and this is certainly an area that's experienced exponential growth over the last, probably 30, 40, even 50 years in terms of some of the earliest magnetic stripe reader systems and access control systems that were available then. Indeed, Abloy invented the world's first electric lock back in the 70s, so it shows just how long these wired access control systems have actually been around for. But wired access control systems have their challenges as well. Firstly, everything is typically done as a separate component. Maybe we have the electric lock. We've got a cable running through a door. We've got a door loop. Then we've got the cable running up to a door access controller. That door access controller's got to feed information back to a door controller, a server-based system. We need a power supply to feed the power for the lock and for the door access controller. And then we've got to have a separate location for a reader, also going back to that system to make the decision. And so we've got all these separate components, and we've got an installation challenge. And that installation challenge obviously gives us a cost implication. We've also got the obvious power requirements of, okay, well, now we've got to find a location for a power supply. We potentially need a fuse spur for the installation. And again, we're starting to increase the cost, and we're not necessarily doing things in the sustainable way. And ultimately, we've got a complex system. And sometimes a complex system is the right system. So sometimes we need that complicated door. We need that immediate notification from the door that something's happened. Perhaps we're looking at interlocking requirements, and we need to have one door remain secure whilst another door is open. But with a lot of doors in a building, ultimately doors that get forgotten when we look at those complex wired access control systems, we just need a simple solution to accept or deny access and record some information about who's gone into that particular area. And there can be a much easier way of doing it. And of course, that's why we've started to see the rise of wireless access control systems over the last 10, 20 years. And it is very much a growth sector. So looking at a couple of reports that we've had, looking just over the last 4 years at the growth rate in wireless access control, broken down into two separate types of product here. So we've got our electronic cylinder type product, very, very popular product for quick and easy installation of wireless access control, swapping out a cylinder, reusing the existing lock case. That has the advantages of obviously maintaining any compliance, emergency escape compliance that might exist on that particular door. It also has the advantage of having to have the user manually deadlock or close the door behind them in some cases. And so it's proven to be a very popular solution for things like student accommodation. And then we have the electromechanical locks, so battery operated electromechanical locks, and this is escutcheon sets and handles. Again, very, very popular solution. Really, really simple to use, and this is the most important thing. It's simple to install because it's battery powered, it's wireless, so we don't have all the infrastructure around the door. But the most important thing is it's really obvious what to do with it. It's a handle escutcheon. Everything's all in one. I can see the reader. I know how to use this component, and that's been important in terms of driving the growth in those electromechanical locks as well. So all in all, a very successful sector over the last few years, and one that we predict will continue to grow at a double-digit rate as battery power improves. Obviously, giving us longer and longer lifespan of these locks. The requirement to have more data, more visibility in more areas of the building continues to grow. And of course, as new products and new flexible ways of using these products come in and make it more and more accessible to more and more areas of the building. And we're going to touch on some of those new additions to the product range or new technologies that we can use to create that flexibility as we go through the presentation today. So we understand why we have wireless access control products, why we've seen a shift from mechanical solutions over the years to more access control based solutions where we start to have that ability to create a time schedule, ability to change somebody's access flexibly around the needs of the organization. We understand the challenges with some of those wired access systems, and why when we look at all of these commercial buildings out there and their access control requirements, why they're only really securing 30, maybe 25% of their doors with access control, and everything else is still on a mechanical locking system. And that's because there's a cost and a complexity involved in that wired access control system. And we understand that it's a growing sector because of those things. But let's have a look at some of the other things that are affecting wireless access control in today's market, in 2021. What are we going to see happen? What have we seen happen? What do we expect to happen to affect the way that we market our wireless access control products going forward? And there's a few of those subjects included up there in a word cloud. I'm sure this could go on and on and on in terms of a list. I've picked out 10 that we think at Abloy are going to be really important drivers for our market in 2021 and beyond. So we're going to go through those and then finally finish up with looking at how we're addressing some of those using the new product development and the new product introductions that we've got at Abloy UK in 2021. So first of all, identity. Identity is becoming a really important thing, and this is largely driven from cybersecurity. So an area of the overall security market that as a physical security product manufacturer, we don't tend to get too involved with, other than obviously making sure that we're secure in terms of cybersecurity. But cybersecurity has created this whole issue around identity, and that's also created a whole issue around privacy, which is very linked to an individual's identity as well. And what we're seeing is that shift towards looking at the individual identity of the person is now affecting the way that a customer buys an access control system. They want that extra thing that says, okay, how do I know that person that's turned up is the person that I've given that access control credential to? And it doesn't matter whether that credential is a key, a card, or a fob. It really doesn't matter, because people will lend things, and this is where we get the challenge. So access control up until now has been about a credential. The challenge going forward is, how do I tie that credential absolutely inextricably to an individual? And sometimes that's achieved with card and PIN. Sometimes it's achieved with biometrics, things like facial recognition. And for us, as you'll see later on in the presentation, we believe it's very much going to be achieved with mobile identities and linking the identity to something that you're not quite so comfortable lending to another person, which is your smartphone. So identity becoming a really important thing, and we need to start referring to the user, the card, the credential instead as an identity as we go forward. Then we've got decision making, and the typical access control, in fact the words access control should really disappear. Access control systems in their own right are a result of us not having the ability to link all of the things together that we want to link together. Realistically, what we're actually interested in is, well, what happened before? So what was the decision made? Why did we decide that somebody needs access to that area? And often that system that makes that decision has got nothing to do with the access control system. So the system that makes the decision could be a telemetry system. Maybe we're talking about a large factory with lots and lots of pieces of machinery and big health and safety requirements in terms of who can access different areas. You've got to definitely have the right level of compliance to access a particular area and work on a particular piece of machinery. Perhaps we're talking about infrastructure where we've got miles and miles and miles and miles of sewers or pipes or electricity cables. And again, we've got to worry about people having the right level of access before they gain entry to an area. But the thing that makes the decision is the telemetry that says that machine's not functioning correctly. I need somebody to come out and service this piece of machinery or repair something on this particular location. You don't really need an access control system. An access control system is the person sat there that logs into the system and says, okay, right, I need to send somebody here. But we already know that we need to send somebody there. The decision-making system has already made that decision for you and notified you. So the future is, well, the decision-making system might as well turn on the access for you as well. And then there's a decision to be made afterwards. And that's the other side of this. So the other side of the access control system, the person sat in the middle making the changes in the software, is okay, somebody's had access to an area now. We've got an audit trail come back from the system. I can see that somebody accessed an area, or I can see that somebody's tried to access an area and they haven't had access because they shouldn't have had access. It's still after the fact, and so it's a data question. Okay, what do we do with that information? We've now got some information that says somebody successfully accessed an area because a decision-making system said that somebody should access an area. Maybe the piece of information you want to capture now is, what did they do whilst they were in that area? So maybe you want them to complete a works order, a form to say, okay, this is what I did, here's some photos, here's some information about what I did on the site there. Or maybe you want to trigger an alarm and say, well, somebody's tried to have access and they shouldn't have had access. So ultimately, the access control piece in the middle should happen naturally. It should start to be embedded in business operations. It should be process management. And this links back to that identity and where we start to see systems being referred to as identity management systems. And I think it'll be very much movement management systems coming out of the weird scenario that we found ourselves in over the last 12 months. And more and more devices, more and more data-rich data points in terms of the IoT devices that are out there. And the more capability, bandwidth and computing power we get with things like cloud computing and fiber optic 5G network rollouts and things, the more we can enable faster and more complex deep learning and artificial intelligence, all of which will have one objective, and it will be to make a decision. And so it will be decision control, decision-based systems that we need to be thinking about going into the future. So it's important for us to start asking questions when we're with customers. Why does somebody need access? What system is controlling that? And instead of thinking about, okay, can I give you an access control system? It's, well, can I give you a product that can interface directly with your decision-making system? And that's where an API first approach comes to product development, and you'll see that in some of the new technologies that we're bringing into the market in 2021. Then we have sustainability. Certainly not a new trend, not a new word, and something that I was actually alerted to relatively recently, but it's quite an old phrase. It goes back, I think, almost 30 years now. Is the triple bottom line, and businesses having a responsibility for people, profit and planet instead of potentially just their economic growth that they're traditionally seen to be out to get. And this is becoming inherently important because it's a societal issue and people are very focused on it. It does affect everybody in pretty equal form around the world, but also it's a corporate social responsibility issue, and businesses are being not forced is probably a bit of a forceful word, but maybe there are incentives to businesses, small businesses and large businesses, to operating in more environmentally friendly ways, because that's to the benefit of society. And so businesses are out there, new builds are done to be environmentally friendly. We need to be looking at how we as an organisation, of course, at Assa Abloy, we put a lot of focus into being environmentally friendly, and the future factory, and then there's lots of information you can read about that on our website. But it's more how our products can help the customer become more environmentally friendly. And I gave that example of desk utilisation and how that can be equated to environmental standards. So if we understand where somebody is in terms of the data that's coming out of the system, where they've been, then we can control environmental systems around them, such as heating, ventilation, lighting, and all of that can have a fairly major impact on sustainability. But also, that can work the other way around. I can make a decision about where a person can go because I know where a person isn't. And it's also knowing what areas of the building are currently available, i.e. don't have anybody in them, particularly as we're in a period of social distancing and making sure that we've only got a finite number of people within a particular location at a particular time. So all of these things start to come together, and sustainability absolutely is something that's driving decision making in our customers. And this move to smart cities need data. Smart cities also need infrastructure, and we'll see the impact that requesting a smart city has on infrastructure on the next slide. But these security systems harvest a huge amount of data. Access control has been out there for 20-30 years, creating billions and billions of lines of data. And all we've ever done with that data is leave it to the end user, to the customer, to make decisions based on that data, potentially to look at that data and see if they can make themselves more efficient. Maybe it's there as it's a bit of a safety net. They don't even really use the data. In fact, how many people have got millions of lines of access control audit trail data and have never looked at them because they haven't found a real tangible use for them within their organisation? It's a safety net. They know that it's there. If something goes wrong, they can go into the audit trails and they can see what happened, but hopefully nothing ever goes wrong, and so they never really go into that data. And probably when something does go wrong, they've forgotten that they've got all of that data to do it in the first place. The reality is to have a truly smart city, we need to start sharing data. These systems can't keep these data in data silos and not allow other systems to learn from that data and make decisions from that data. If we've got buildings that are popping up all over London, for example, in this sustainable way, where we're controlling the flow of people and we're making sure that we're optimizing the use of resources around that building, surely we want to do that when the person leaves the building as well. And are we sharing that information? That data that's in that access system for that one individual building has a value maybe to the local council in terms of knowing footfall on the street, because we know who's coming in and out of the building. Maybe that would have been tremendously valuable throughout the period of the last 12 months in terms of understanding the number of people still going to work because they have to go to their place of work. They can't work from home. So that data has a value to other people. And over the next few years, we'll start to see that sharing of data and the benefits that can start to bring. And that's where you can actually create a value. A customer has a value. If you're sat on millions of lines of audit data that's not that useful to you, you're not really doing anything with it. Perhaps there's an analysis company out there that would find that data really useful. And it doesn't have to include anything personal. You can anonymize it. They might find that information tremendously useful. And let's be clear. That's what a lot of these big technology companies are doing now, is harvesting lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of data on customers, anonymizing it, but then they've got the best possible understanding of the consumer marketplace, and they can sell that understanding, they can sell that insight, and they're already selling you their products, and then they're now able to sell their insights that they've got on you as a consumer because you've bought their products. And so we'll see a lot more of that data sharing and data harvesting driving the development of our solutions. And as I say, you can't have all of that smart city without the infrastructure to support it. So the next level of technology in our buildings, in our built environment, means that we need the next level of infrastructure. I was at a conference a few years ago on the rollout of 5G for the UK, and somebody gave a statistic on driverless cars. They said one driverless car needs 4 terabytes of data every single day, and that stuck with me, that statement, because when I was allowed to travel around in a simpler time, I could barely get a phone signal sometimes driving down the M6, and I'm thinking, well, a driverless car needs 4 terabytes of data and needs to be online constantly. Otherwise, we're going to have a bit of a challenge when there's certainly when there's more than one driverless car out there. And so the infrastructure needs a lot of investment, a lot of development to be able to support the needs of that smart environment. So we'll see a lot of trends towards that. We've also got user experience. Everything's got to be simple. I think the first time I heard the term millennial now was I've been accused of being a millennial was probably about 10 years ago, and we started to look at it and say, okay, there are these, this next generation of these millennials. We are going to be at a point where we've got 4 different generations working side by side that all like to engage with businesses in different ways. One generation likes picking up the phone and having that conversation. At the other end of the spectrum, we've got a generation of people that don't want to pick up the phone at all. They want to send a text message, or they want to use a chat functionality like we've got embedded in the exhibition stand today. And then we've got some in between where maybe they like face to face, or it's email is the preferred way of doing things. These different generations that work and operate in different ways want different things. But over the course of the next decade, we'll see that millennial really be in the position of the buying power, the decision making, and they've grown up in a world where everything has to be easy. User experience is put above everything else. How you experience using that service is fundamentally important to them, and they're fickle. If they have one bad experience, they're going to go elsewhere, and that's not just about how they do their online shopping. It's how they engage with the device as well. Whether that device is a smartphone or whether that device is a wireless access control locking product, it's got to be simple. It's got to be an elegant experience. The organisation that they're dealing with to put that in has got to be easy to work with. It's got to be easy to specify these products. It's got, the people specifying them will be the same. They would have grown up in a world where everything has to be simple and everything has to be easy. User experience is becoming fundamentally important to everything throughout product development, particularly the areas that are easy to forget in terms of maintenance of a product, long-term life cycle of the product, and of course replacing the product as well. So it's not just about software. When somebody says user experience, my immediate thought is to go to, okay, how did I experience using that piece of software? But user experience is about everything to do with the product. And that leads quite nicely into this subscription economy, and how people actually want to acquire the products. Perhaps they are creating that data that we've spoken about from the wireless access control product. That data has a value, and they understand that data has a value. And so they want to pay less for the product because you're getting the data from it and you're able to make some money from the data. And subscription isn't just about paying a monthly fee for something. A subscription can have nothing to do with money. Subscription can just be about engagement. Subscription is doing our CPDs. People who subscribe to our CPDs, they attend our CPDs regularly from Abloy because they're required to for a professional body in terms of their continuing professional development. So subscription can be about lots of different things, but the important thing with subscription is it's about regular touch points with the customer. And as we create more data-driven products, more software-driven products, products aren't fit and forget. Products are always changing. We're releasing new firmwares, we're releasing new features, we've got a new functionality to launch into a piece of software. That end user engagement is much higher in terms of making sure that they're always 100% up to speed with the latest features of the product. If they don't understand the latest features of the product, they can't possibly move with the product and accelerate with the product and hopefully grow with the product. And it's far easier to obviously reach a customer that's already a customer than it is to go out and find a completely new one. Cloud service providers, acceleration in this space is pretty obvious. Everything's moving to the cloud. We've got some great experience of this at Abloy UK. It's where our digital transformation team actually came from. The launch of our Click product, our Click Remote product in 2011 was probably one of the first security platforms out there to go to the cloud, and stood alone for quite a long time. And we've built up a decade of experience in working with cloud-hosted software in the security market. But that sector is moving from growth to maturity. These cloud service providers are actually software providers in their own right. So they may be actual customers of ours in the future as much as we're a customer of theirs. And low cost infrastructure is going to bring a lot of new threats into our security marketplace in terms of potentially low cost, cheaper products that can achieve a certain level of software functionality. So something that we've got to look out for as responsible manufacturers is making sure that products remain compliant. And we do a lot of work at Abloy UK, and hopefully some of you watching this would have seen Pat's presentation on the walkthrough of a building. We do a lot of work in making sure that our products are compliant, but not only are our products compliant, but our installers understand the importance of that as well. Obviously, we've got lots of political change going on. I'm not going to dwell on this slide. Everybody's got their own feelings about it, but ultimately, change does breed opportunity, and everything's in a constant state of change at the moment, whether it's because of this particular topic or whether it's because of the current pandemic. The important thing is to remain agile, and that's why flexibility in an access system is really important. So can I immediately change my access? And we'll talk about that in a second when we come on to the topic of mobile credentials and mobile identities. And then finally, obviously the impacts of going back to work and the focus on the healthcare sector. How people build contingency for situations like the pandemic we've just been in, and of course make sure that we can get our children back into education in a safe way, and what the access control requirements of that might be. Lots and lots of impacts on that, and again I'm not going to dwell on what some of those are. So those are just some of the trends that we see affecting our wireless access control market. In fact, it's affecting our wider market. It's not just about the wireless access control products, but I'm now going to put some of those into the context of our new product introductions for 2021 in our wireless access control product portfolio. So first off, starting with the Aperio range, the Aperio product. Aperio is a product that has actually been in the marketplace for 10 years itself now. It's an integratable wireless access control product. So the principle of the technology is that we've built the hardware. Abloy are very good at building locking hardware. We've built the hardware. It can integrate into any third-party access control system, and in fact, it has been, it has had a huge amount of success in that, with hundreds of OEMs around the world integrating the Aperio technology into their access control systems. The number of different ways it can integrate, whether it be through a standard Wiegand interface, an RS485 connection, which is probably the more common, and certainly now moving towards an IP solution being the more common, and it comes in a range of different products, whether it's the cylinder product for that quick and easy access control upgrade, the handle based product, something fairly new to the portfolio, probably the easiest access control upgrade you could do to a door. That would work with a tubular latch, it would work on a glass door, it would work on a DIN lock case. Lots of different options in terms of upgrading your door to access control. The discussion-based system, probably the more common and certainly the most easily recognisable, and the high security electric lock operated compliant version of the Abloy EL560 with the Aperio product. And then we've got bespoke applications such as server racks and things as well, where access control is still important. And access control does now extend well beyond the door, as we'll see with some of the other products that we've got coming into the range, or already in the range in wireless access control. One big change, probably the biggest and most exciting change to the Aperio portfolio in 2021, the introduction of mobile identities. So mobile IDs, not a new phenomenon at all. However, it is something that, as I've said, the market is telling us is in demand. People want a flexible, keyless way of gaining access, and probably the biggest advantage to a mobile identity is the speed. And I said a moment ago that agility is important. We've all just learnt how important agility is. A little under 12 months ago, within the space of days, we suddenly realised we had to move our entire operations to working from home. That was a huge upheaval, but something that the businesses had to react to incredibly quickly to avoid, obviously, negative impacts on their businesses. Agility was fundamental. Speed that we can make changes to the way that we work or the way that we access something were fundamental. And that's a very elaborate and very unlikely scenario. Obviously, the whole world changing the way that it operates, but it's happened, and we've witnessed it. At a more micro level, businesses are experiencing that every day. Maybe they've made an acquisition. Maybe they've divested an area of their business. Maybe a particular new threat is on the horizon and they've got to adjust their business for that. Or maybe they've got a new product line and they've got to adjust their business for that. So these things that change the way that you might use a building or area require flexibility. Now, access control is flexible. Wireless access control is very flexible. We can obviously put these products on any door or any locking point, and we've got a degree of access control. We're wirelessly communicating with the product, so we've got kind of constant online control of the product. The Achilles heel in this system is the credential. Now, the credentials are very flexible. They're very cost effective. Potentially, we've got a card-based credential. And it's they are cost effective, and we can change people's access. The problem is, firstly, we've got to get that card to the person, and secondly, we might want to take it back or add a new card if we're migrating our technologies or something. And this is the challenge. You've still got the issue of the issue. Issuing the credential is a big waste of time. It does use up a lot of time. You've got to get that person to a location. You've got to get the credential to a location. You've got to get it into their hand and make sure that they know how to use it. And that's not flexible. Mobile identities, everybody's got a smartphone. Mobile identities are instant. And that's where the big advantage comes. Maybe you're running a large organisation and you've got a subcontractor coming in to do a piece of work. And you know who you've awarded the contract to. You've got a company that have got that contract. No idea who they're sending. You don't actually know who's going to turn up on the day. You can't send every single one of their employees an access control credential and say, "Yep, okay, you've got access to the building when you turn up," because that's way too many credentials to get out there and a lot more to try and control. The person turns up on the day, and maybe you're not there to encode the cards, and they haven't got a credential. You've got a challenge. The advantage of the mobile identity is, well, they've got a smartphone in their pocket, they request access, and you can send it to them instantaneously. And that's where the flexibility and the agility becomes really, really important. And it's something that we've got customers have been asking for a number of years, actually. And building this into the Aperio range means that we've not only have we got the benefit of mobile identities in our wireless access control portfolio, but all of our integrated OEMs do as well, because they can use these mobile identities with the Aperio hardware. It's a really simple, straightforward system. Basically, we've got a management portal where you log in and you've got all of your mobile identities. End user actually logs in and manages their mobile identities from this portal. That mobile identity has a mobile key set, so effectively a unique facility code, site code, whatever we want to call it, something unique to that end user organization. For the Apereo locking product to recognize or to have that key set embedded in it, we have a configuration card, one simple card, and all you do is you badge that Apereo product. It's now loaded with that key set for that particular site, unique to that particular site, and then from an end user perspective, they can just start sending credentials out to their smart devices, and it's as simple as that. So really, really simple to manage, simple to deploy, and a huge amount more flexibility in terms of the access control system. So that's our number one big change in terms of the Apereo portfolio. It's not the only change. We're also, in terms of, I guess, in the spirit of understanding that locking points go well beyond the door these days, but also that the flexibility of wireless access control and the demands on wireless access control mean that people actually want to secure more and more and more and more doors. We've also recently launched our Generation 5 hubs, increasing the number of locks per hub by quite a dramatic amount. So the RS485 integrations now get the benefit of 16 Apereo locking devices per hub, whereas it used to be 8. And the IP integrations get the benefit of 64. And when you start to think about things like banks of lockers, a one hub to serve 64 wireless locker locks, for example, is a really economical way of achieving access control on something that's that's beyond the door. And as I say, that's an important space for us going forward. So some really great changes on the Apereo portfolio side. We also have, as you would have seen from Pat's presentation, and you'll also see from David's presentation coming up at 3 o'clock this afternoon, the introduction of Incedo Business Cloud. We have launched Incedo Business as a modular access control system in both the light and cloud formats. And for more information on that, as I say, I suggest you stick around after this presentation and listen to David as he runs through the introduction of Incedo Business Cloud. But basically, this is a simple, very, very cost-effective, very modern, and very modular access control system. It can be as big or small as you like, and we'll be able to encompass the wealth of Assa Abloy electromechanical technology. So it also allows people to use, for example, those Apereo products, wireless access control products that we've just been talking about, that haven't previously been able to access those products in the marketplace. So another big step forward in terms of flexibility and agility around our wireless access control portfolio. And then we have our Smart Air product, another product that's been around for quite some time, but undergone some fairly dramatic changes in terms of increasing usability for user experience, flexibility for customers, even aesthetics in terms of the way that it looks and feels as well, and some big changes here for the Smart Air product. Smart Air is a great product for, well, really from anything from a small and medium sized business all the way up to a complex enterprise installation. Requires zero infrastructure in terms of the locking points. It's that wireless access control product. Potentially you want a hub to have a true wireless online system. Potentially you want it to work in an offline way using an update on card viral type system where the credentials passing around the programming after being funneled through a choke point, an update point. Or one of the most exciting features for this portfolio is the OpenNow mobile credentials. So again, looking at those mobile identities. And you can mix and match all of these different ways of working in a Smart Air ecosystem around your building. So perhaps you have a main building where we obviously want the Pro Wireless Online. We want to know what's going on in our building. We want constant communication with the locking products. We want to be able to go into things like emergency lockdown if we need to. But then potentially you've got one or two doors right down the far end of the building where you don't really want to run all of the hubs and networks and everything you need. We can just have an online updater and we can use the update on card functionality to achieve the security on those one or two doors. And then perhaps you've got a satellite office that's miles away, and again, you don't really want to run the infrastructure. Maybe it doesn't even have a network connection. Maybe it's just a storage container, and you need occasionally to be able to grant access to it. It can be part of your Smart Air access control system where you've got all of this online and update on card functionality, but you can go and install a lock on that container, and all you need is a mobile phone. And the mobile phone carries all of the programming into the lock for you next time a user goes and updates it. And that's the really exciting thing about OpenNow. It's an app that really can open every door. It opens new opportunities, I think, for the customer as well, because it actually updates the locking products for you, updates the access plan, revokes lost or stolen keys, and downloads events from the door. Not events created by that phone, that user, any events that have been created at the door. So perhaps somebody's used a card to gain access to that door. That door's in the middle of nowhere. We haven't got any infrastructure around it. It's literally a battery powered escutcheon that's been there for 6 months, and nobody's really touched it apart from one card holder. So we can't get that audit trail information. Next time somebody goes there and uses OpenNow, the app, to access the door, you get that information. It downloads that audit trail information. It updates the locking plan in that door if you want to make a change. So picture large scale retail where maybe we've got a challenge because at the moment they're using mechanical locks because it seems to be the lock of choice in retail for obvious reasons. They've got some major challenges in terms of the number of stores and number of doors and number of people that might have access. We don't want everybody to be using a smartphone to gain access in the morning to unlock the store, because let's be honest, we don't in a lot of retail scenarios, not everybody's going to have a work phone, and we always have some challenges when we start talking about bring your own device and putting company apps on people's personal devices. But maybe the store manager's got a smartphone, everyone else has got an access credential. Somebody goes out at the weekend and loses their access credential, not a problem, because the store manager simply phones up head office and says, one of our credentials has gone missing, I need to resecure the site. Next time he uses his phone to unlock the store, it updates all of the locking plans in the lock anyway, and that old credential is now removed, and a new credential, if it's been programmed, is live in the system. Picture that same scenario with things like holiday homes, and this is where the API economy, the idea of integrating with decision-making systems becomes really important. Perhaps you want to book a holiday. You've got you're letting a holiday home out, and you want your people to be able to book a holiday and get access to it. And you want a really automatic process. You don't want to worry about having to turn up and let people in and show them how the keys work. And you really want a simple system. Well, using the API available for the Smart Air product, you can have people book on a website. The second they hit the book now button and payments in your account, they can have a credential turn up on their phone that says happy holidays, you're going to have access on this day at this time. And when they turn up, their phone gets them in, downloads any audit trail information, reprograms the lock for any new time schedules, perhaps for cleaning services, maintenance services, who they're not using smartphones. You've issued them cards because they're going in regularly. That whole process is completely automated from a customer perspective. There is no access control system to speak of. It's all there in the background, but there's no access control system to speak of. There's a booking website, and there's a smartphone for the user, and everything else happens automatically. So big opportunities for the Smart Air introduction of OpenNow, and obviously the API. We've also got a completely new user interface. It's not new, actually. It's been around for quite some time, but nobody really knew it was there. And one of the reasons not is that it's very difficult to make a browser interact with hardware attached to a PC. And so one of the challenges was being able to program cards interacting with the desktop encoder. That challenge, I'm pleased to say, has now been resolved. And so we see the Smart Air Web Manager being that important user experience that we talked about in terms of the trends in the market there. Really simple software to use, elegant software to use, accessible from anywhere because it's browser-based, multi-device because it's browser-based. Don't have to worry about software on the PC, which is often the challenge with with some of these access control systems, with client software, and every PC, regardless of what people might tell you, every PC is different. People are installing different things on it. They are patching it at different speeds. They do obviously have different hardware specifications, and they do often have other pieces of software running on them, despite the fact that they promise you that they're only using it for their access control software. The advantage here is that you don't mind what they've got on there. As long as they've got a web browser, they can access the SmartAir Web Manager. You can keep the server-based software securely installed in a central location. And now you are also able to encode cards from that browser. So a really important step forward there. So full system management from any device. On top of that, so it's obviously some exciting stuff on the software side of things there. Also, introduction of some new hardware into the range. First of all, the new IMAX escutcheon, elegant new escutcheon, built for durability. Most importantly, built to withstand more than 200,000 cycles performance testing. Lift and lock for use on multi-point locking applications as well. Introduction of blue and red LEDs because actually it's better for colourblind or visually impaired people to see the access if it's a blue LED, which is something that's very important, and comes with card and pin functionality, as you can see in the picture there. So introduction of brand new escutcheon for 2021. Coming with that, a brand new electric locking option as well. The important difference between using an escutcheon and using the mortised electric locking option is introduction of monitoring. So getting more information, more data, which is important to obviously the value generation of the system there with that. Available, as I say, as a DIN standard lock case. Mechanical override, still very important in terms of access control systems. A lot of people do choose to put a mechanical override on there, and obviously works with our wireless online and open now systems in terms of SmartAir. And there's a lot more in that SmartAir range. These are not new products, so we've obviously got the wall reader option where we want to do things like lift management, and there is a full lift control module available for SmartAir. Locker locks, where we want to extend the access control beyond the door, and cylinders as well, which, as I say, have proven to be quite a popular solution for things like student accommodation. So some really great changes and advances in the SmartAir range. And again, I'd encourage you to have a look around the stand, download some of the literature we've got available on the virtual exhibition stand, but most importantly to get in touch if you've got any questions around some of those new product introductions there. And then finally, Beat, and the whole wireless access control thing does go beyond the door, and there is a whole element of access control that often gets forgotten about, and it's those locations that nobody wants to talk about. It's those really harsh locations, external locations, funny locking applications that you can't put a cylinder or an escutcheon on, and that's where the padlock is still one of the most popular products. Probably the grade 4 padlock is likely to be, I would have thought, around the world, Abloy's most popular product in terms of volume. There's that many of these grade 4 padlocks out there. Firstly because you install them and they work forever, but secondly because they're literally in demand because there are so many applications where only a padlock will do. But padlocks need control, need flexibility. These locations that we're securing, they need all of these things that we've been talking about. We want to create data from people accessing that external gate, that external location, that reservoir hatch, that roof hatch, whatever it might be. We want to create that data. We want to have the flexibility to change when people have access to it. We want to be able to integrate with that decision management system that says, okay, that person's got the right level of compliance to access that particular area at that particular time because that particular IoT device sat on a pipe over there tells me that there's not enough water pressure going through it anymore. So, and as I said, infrastructure needs to be smart just as much as cities need to be smart. So all of these dirty areas that use these padlocks need all of this functionality as well. So Beat is our latest keyless padlock solution. Again, using mobile identities, so it all comes back to that identity management, knowing the person through knowing the smartphone, controlling the smartphone, using the biometric credentials stored in the smartphone, whether it be a Face ID or a thumbprint scan, but doing all of that in the world of padlocks. So again, high security product, meeting the latest security grade. So 16864 is the latest mechatronic padlock standard, and this is a grade 4 padlock in under that standard, as would be its mechanical counterpart under EM 12320. Importantly, we're putting this padlock in some harsh environments. That's what it's designed for. Get out there and lock the things that nothing else can lock, and so that IP68 rating is incredibly important. Bluetooth connectivity up to 50 meters. So it's not, you've got to try and be as close as possible to the padlock. Sometimes these padlocks are in very difficult to reach locations, and we obviously don't want to be putting a phone right up near the padlock. We want to be using the phone from a sensible distance in your hand to gain access to an area. It also has the advantage in doing that that we can use things like gateways to remotely control padlocks and things which can't be achieved in other solutions. In terms of how it works, we have a back-end system, and this is where the API economy bit feeds in again. So instead of having just our application, let's just write we've come up with this very clever, very exciting new product. Let's create an application that does what we think it needs to do in the most generalist way possible, because we want to serve the largest part of the market as possible. Well, we know that that's not true. It's not possible. That's not the best way to be doing things. You can't serve the largest amount of the market as possible and give them everything that they want. Each customer is different and has different requirements. Each sector is very different and has very different requirements. So an API first approach means, okay, let's build a product. Let's build an API that means other people can interface with this product, and then let's build our application that interfaces with the product using that same API. And that's the API first. You build the API first, then you build your software functionality. And the reason that's so important is it then means anybody else, any other system, can do just as much with that product as we can do as the manufacturers of it, providing a system. And that's important because it could be that we really want to get into that decision making, command and control software for a particular infrastructure, utility, telecom, who have got custom software that controls their system, because they've had to build custom software because they're such a complex but niche organization. So we have that back-end service that publishes an API. We then consume that API ourselves using our Abloy SIPE, as it's now called, or OS management system, which gives you visual management of your locking system, and we can obviously provide some demonstration of that another day. The app, freely available from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, and then of course the padlocks. And if the back-end service has been told you have access in your app, you have access to that padlock, and it's as simple as that. That back-end service could be controlled by anything, all using the highly encrypted, highly secure Acer Abloy CEOS technology. So, what is next generation wireless locking? Hopefully you've seen something today that's of interest and has maybe created some questions. I would say the next generation of wireless locking is simple, it's mobile, and it's online. It's giving us data. Thank you for listening.